Hi, folks. This is Tom Burkhalter. I'm here with Roger Maxim, and we're going to do a little interview about his work with historical fiction based on World War II. Roger, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, doing great, Tom. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm happy to hear you are. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like maybe how you got started writing?
Actually, it makes me smile. First of all, I guess by nature, I'm kind of a storyteller anyway. You know, the neighborhood kids, we'd all be sitting around bored, and the next thing you know, they'd say, Roger, tell us a story. But fast forward, back in 2015, my wife and I were visiting my brother-in-law, and his cousin lived in the same town. And they had learned about Amazon self-publishing, and they'd seen some kind of stuff on the internet, and they were into all the techie stuff, and they were really getting going on it. So, okay, that's interesting. So it finally, after several days, got to the point where, okay, so guys, what are you going to write? Oh, nothing. I'm going to pay somebody on Fiverr to write something. What? And that just knocked me off my chair. So I said, guys, I'm going to write my own. So I did. I had this story kind of floating around in my head. And so sat down, put it on paper, well, on computer. That became Aluminum Rain. Posted it. People liked it for the most part. That got me going, and we've been trucking ever since.
Excellent. So you've written several series now, right?
Yeah, I have the first 3 books are a trilogy of novellas. They're kind of short. And then the next one is a pair. An Air Force guy follows him from his college graduation into the lethal skies over Europe. And then there's still a whole lot more to say. So the sequel to that one is called Pacific on Fire. He goes out to the Pacific. So that one went really well. And so then I decided, okay, I'm a Navy guy. I got to write a Navy story. So I started the series I'm doing right now. It's called the Long Gray Target series. And so it starts from like the middle of August of 39, just before anything's happening, and carries all the way through the war.
So you cover I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. So there's 4 volumes get me through the war. Both, they're all over the place. It takes place on a 4-stacker destroyer.
Oh.
Everything from convoy escort to, they're all over the place. And so it finally ended up in the Pacific on a new Fletcher. Everything's cool. And so the book I'm on now is kind of the ending of it, which is what happened to them next.
Right.
So this is a story about all of those characters and what happens to them after the war ended. So that's what I'm working on right now.
You've touched on 2 of my favorite destroyers. I love the old 4-pipers and the Fletcher class, just for sheer gorgeousness. Just my opinion, right? I just love those things.
Oh, I'm with you. Awesome ships. Awesome ships.
So what are some of your inspirations for historical fiction?
I am a child of a World War II soldier. My dad was a lieutenant in charge of a mobile blood bank with Third Army. So he did the whole race across France thing. Oh, boy. He got home. Apparently, he and my mom were happy to see each other. He got home in like late January, and I was born in December. And so, but hearing his stories kind of got me started, combined with, as a toddler out in the yard, and hearing a noise up in the sky. What? My little toddler brain. So I look up, and there's that shiny silver thing. Oh, that's neat. And I've been hooked on airplanes ever since. So that, combined with my dad's stories, combined with my own experiences in the Navy and the places we went. We were anchored in Pearl Harbor on a sunny Sunday morning. Nothing going on. I was sitting out on the forecastle just enjoying the tropical breeze. And we could see the Arizona Memorial was very nearby.
Right.
Excuse me. And so I was sitting there and I got to thinking, what must that have been like? And so that really kind of fed the fires. And then in our travels, went to obviously Pearl Harbor, Guam, Philippines, Formosa, Japan, all over the place. I made 2 deployments to Vietnam. And it's just like it all just kind of fueled the fire. And so when it finally came time to, what, I'm going to write my own story. Yeah, that was a given.
Yeah. So how do you do research for your stories? I know you have an extensive background in the Navy, and of course, you know, personal experience is a big plus, but what kind of research do you like to do to prepare for your stories?
Oh, it's endless. It's endless. You know, the thing is, you know, writing the stories is fun. I love writing the stories, just letting that creative thing flow. And it's kind of cool because, you know, some authors outline, you know, they got the big whiteboard and they're outlining, and that's awesome. I don't have to. I write historical novels. History is my outline.
Yeah.
So I'm going through that stuff, but I didn't live through World War II. I was born a year after. So yes, a horrendous amount of research goes into it because, you know, every time you say something, somebody's going to check you on it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's and so it's constant research. And it starts off with, okay, what major historical thing happened next? But then it quickly narrows. For example, in this current book that I'm writing right now, I have my character talking to two senior scientists, real people. And he uses the phrase, the older man said. And then I got to thinking, I wonder which one of those guys is the older man. So I got to go back on the internet, check it out, and figure out which one of those two guys was older.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's tedious and it's endless, but it's fun.
But you know, Roger, asking those questions like that really is kind of a knack. And you know, you're that's good that you do that. I can appreciate it personally.
Oh, it's fun.
What can you tell us a little more about your current work in progress without, you know, giving away anything?
Well, like I say, the series is The Long Gray Target,
right,
which, just as an aside, takes its name from a statement one of the guys on the bridge made. Very early on, the book is called Don't Shoot, I'm Neutral, which tells you this is before we were in the war, when we were sort of neutral. And they're kind of, they aren't escorting, they're sort of going along with a convoy over to England, and a U-boat attacks, and a ship gets blown up, and they're asking their sonar guy, where's the sub? And he's going, there's so much noise, I don't know, he could be right under us. And the other guy turns to him and he says, boy, I feel like we're nothing but a long gray target.
Well, not too many people anymore realize or know that there was such a thing as the Neutrality Patrol.
Yeah.
And what was it, like the middle of the Atlantic, like from Iceland south, something like that? Yeah.
It kept growing. You know, first it was just us, and then it was a little more, and then it was a little, and pretty soon we were way out there. Yeah. And it makes for great stories. I mean, it's fascinating history.
Oh, yeah.
And so to take that fascinating history and weave these characters and events into it that's what keeps me going. I love it.
Sort of like you were there, so you put the reader there.
Yeah.
And that's a real knack, Roger. That's good. Give me 1 second to consult my copious notes here. Who are you primarily writing your books for? What's your target audience?
Well, of course, World War II buffs or history buffs.
Sure.
But it's interesting because my ultimate goal in writing, aside from having fun, is to entertain and educate. Because it has been my experience in talking to people, and I talk to everybody, there isn't a whole lot said about World War II anymore. I mean, that's 80 years away, you know, it's kind of faded away. But I am guided by, and you've probably heard of a Spanish philosopher, George Santayana.
Yeah.
And he made that famous statement, which gets quoted in different ways, but in effect, those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat their mistakes.
Right.
And that's my watchword. And so that motivates me. I want to study this stuff and people to understand it, because it is from history that we can learn from those mistakes so we don't make them again. And when I read the headlines right now today, it's like, this is unbelievable, you know? And so
haven't I heard this before?
Yeah. And so that's kind of what motivates the whole thing. And so with that intention to educate and make it entertaining, there's kind of a purpose to it, is to keep that out there. And so sure, there's going to be the World War II buffs, there's going to be the Navy guys, there's going to be the pilots, you know, that sort of thing. Awesome. I absolutely awesome. I love talking with these guys. But hopefully it's getting to other folks as well.
Yes.
I know as I distribute them to my family, you know, I know they're sharing it with other people in the neighborhood. Yes, that's cool, you know.
Well, that's really, I couldn't agree with you more on the importance of that. And as the Senora Santillana said, yeah, you don't understand history, you're a long way behind.
Yeah.
Well, I'm paraphrasing pretty radically.
Yeah, but we got it.
Yeah, there you go. Or what? History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. So same idea.
There you go. That,
yeah.
Yes, very good.
And let's see. What's your most rewarding experience since you published your book? Like sometimes for me, that could be comments on Amazon, but what's yours?
Yeah, it's kind of two things. One is what we're doing right now. This is really fulfilling for me.
Oh, good.
And the other thing is as you say, as I read the comments that come in from readers, and on the Air Force guy, the middle books, the Air Force guy, he, like I say, he went from his college graduation in Oklahoma all the way to England, and he's flying 8th Air Force, et cetera, et cetera. I had a guy write me and he says, "You just wrote my life story." He says, "That's me. And I married a girl in England, and you just wrote my story." Whoa.
Now, that just puts the little laurel leaf on your head, doesn't it?
Man, it just makes me tingle.
That. Not for
it's really
money.
awesome.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing, you know what, truthfully, that's what you write for. The money's great, but when you get comments like that, it's a whole nother special thing.
Oh man, so, just makes you smile. It's worth it all.
So who were some of the writers that influenced your style? You know, who were you reading growing up, or was there a particular writer you wanted to emulate as far as style goes? Or
actually, well, my style is me. I mean, I when I read a lot of the guys that I read, I don't tell my stories that way. I tell my stories the way I tell them, you know. So yeah, my style is my style. But one of my very favorites, especially in the World War II historical, is going back a ways, and that's W.E.B. Griffin.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going through his core series again right now. And it inspires me, not in the sense to write like him, but it inspires me to write and to make the characters real. And that's really cool. And other fun stuff is outside of the war. I love Kleist Kessler. And he died too, so I'm losing them all. But it's just, it inspires me to move forward.
Well, I know that, let's see, do you have, all right, you're doing the long gray line now, correct?
Long gray target.
I am sorry.
No, that's fine.
Long gray target. Do you have plans to move beyond that series, or?
Oh yeah. Precisely where I'm not quite sure. You know, we've got this thing, I've got the Air Force guy who made it through the war. I've got my Navy guys who most of them made it through the war. But there's this little thing out ahead of them they don't know about yet called Korea. And so taking these folks back in and off to another war that nobody ever expected, which wasn't really a war, a police action.
Quote, unquote. Right.
Yeah. And so that's a possibility. I've given some thought, and I don't know if it'll fly or not, but kind of inspired by my experiences in the Navy, not third hand like I do in my stories. They're heavy on that. But, and not really to write my story, but I was on a rather unique kind of a ship, and we were very active in Vietnam. And I don't know if I could make something out of that or not. I mean, it would be fiction.
Okay, you got my curiosity going now. You're saying a unique kind of a ship. Is this something you can talk about?
Oh yeah. Oh no, we were so far from secret as it was an LSD.
Oh, landing ship dock.
Landing ship dock. I'm one of those guys who got paid to travel on LSD.
Hey, that was a big
I
deal back in those days.
I was on Comstock, LSD 19. She was built in 44, commissioned in 45. I was on board during the Vietnam period, so she's been around a long time. But it's an interesting kind of ship for people who don't really get into that stuff. This is not a destroyer or battleship or anything exciting. Yeah. It's an amphibious support ship. And so we go in and we're unique. We can sink our surface ship down in the water and flood the well deck. It's built like a big seagoing pickup truck. It's like a 475-foot long floating pickup truck. And so it's got what the bed of the pickup is, of course, the Navy has a name for everything, and it's called the well deck.
Right.
And the tailgate, of course, is called the stern gate, of course. But we were able to sink it down and flood the well deck. And so boats, amphibious tractors, whatever, we went with Amtraks all over the place in Vietnam. And so that was our thing, was we'd take the Marines and their Amtraks and load them up like in Da Nang, haul them off to wherever, Qua Viet or wherever, and then we'd ballast down and off they'd go. And then we'd hang around on station so that if they had problems, if something broke down, whatever, we were there to kind of fix things and keep them going.
Right.
And so we were in what was called an Alpha Ready group the whole time I was there, both times. And it was really very interesting. One quick Navy story. I can't resist. This popped into my head. Here I am on this LSD. It's a big, funny looking ship. It's big. It's 475 feet long, 65 feet wide. Funky looking thing. Well, we're coming down to Qua Viet, which is down at the southern part. And you remember the battle for Hue back in Vietnam. That battle was raging. And we come sailing down there, and out a little further offshore from us is a cruiser and a couple of destroyers. So we come sailing down in there, and we're a little inboard of them. They're about a mile or two out beyond us. And we're just sailing down in there, and all us guys are hanging out on the forecastle and OG, you know. And all of a sudden we hear this whoomp, whoomp, whoomp. Those guys are shelling inland, and we just came steaming right under their guns, dropped our hook, and sat there and watched the war. Man, craziness.
Oh, man. Well, I'm not going to get on the subject of what I like, but I would love to have, part of me would really have loved to have heard those guns go, because artillery just fascinates me. I don't care if it's on a ship or on a caisson or whatever, but I just, artillery is interesting. Yeah. So do you have a website for people to visit?
I do not. I started to have a website back when the guys were doing all the website capture stuff. But right now I don't. For no particular philosophical reason. I'm just too busy writing books.
Well, I can understand that.
So I really don't. I've got a Facebook page that I sometimes remember. And again, same problem. We've had a lot of real life around here lately. Yeah. And so getting to write, I'm writing, and so I kind of let some of the other stuff slide. Naughty me, I need to get up on it. No website, a little bit on Facebook, our Maxim writer. Trying to let the world know.
Well, I sort of wish I started writing earlier than I did, but hell, I've been writing since I was 14 years old. I just got good at it maybe 10 years ago. Yeah. Some would say. Well, Roger, is there anything else that you'd like to tell people about your writing other than go buy it right now? Here's a hell of a story for you to read.
Yep, go buy it. No, honestly, just to reiterate the fact that it's a fun and exciting way to learn important history. And I hope people will take that history and think about it. Because World War II has established what our world is today.
Yeah.
And it's those events from even 80 years ago still affect our world today. And so I hope people will just read it, understand it, and then think about it and connect it. It's important stuff.
Is it sort of like, you remember in the Ken Burns documentary on the Civil War, where Shelby Foote says, you can't understand America unless you understand the Civil War? So sort of the same idea.
It's that same general idea. Absolutely. We are where we are. Here we are.
Okay.
But it started way back.
And let's not repeat those same mistakes.
And let's not repeat the mistakes.
Okay. Well, I think that'll be good. And I want to thank you, Roger, for being with us today. And this is Tom Burkhalter with Books Go Social and signing off. If I can find the button.